Hello there, good evening. Welcome to Look North, our top story tonight. Investigations continue into what caused the latest fire on Marsden Moor as firefighters are called out half a dozen times this year.
It seems as though each year we seem to have an increasing number of fires on the moorland, which is an absolute shame because this is a fantastic location to come out and relax in.
We'll find out from Paul if fires like this could be more frequent this year. Also tonight, the family struggling to pay the bills as research suggests the average person in Yorkshire is more than £11,000 in debt. The Parrot sanctuary struggling with demand as more birds are handed over after the pandemic. And the 9-year-old setting a new land speed record in North Yorkshire.
Well, there's hardly been a cloud in the sky today. This laburnum was looking fantastic earlier on today with the blue sky, the beautiful yellow petals. But is this sunshine going to last? Perhaps more cloud tomorrow. Join me for the very latest.
Hello, good evening. It's been another lovely warm day, hasn't it? But as more warm weather approaches this weekend, firefighters have been called back for a third day to Marsden Moor. There have already been half a dozen fires on the moor this year. That's more than previous years by this stage. Mountain rescue volunteers have warned people not to leave anything at all behind to cut the fire risk. Tom Ingle joins us now from Marsden Moor. A beautiful view, Tom, but clearly people are worried there.
Indeed, Amy, it's been absolutely stunning here in the moors today, and you can see why they hold so much attraction. They are dramatic, they are splendidly isolated. If you're looking to come out and walk or cycle with just your own thoughts for company, you can see why they are such an attraction. But it seems that attraction comes with a built-in environmental cost. If you look over my shoulder, on the skyline there is a dark black patch. That is the fire damage from the latest fire which started on Monday. As you say, West Yorkshire Fire Service back here again today. And desperate pleas for everyone who is coming to visit to follow the countryside code. 3 days on, still the fire service are at Marsden Moor.
Well, this morning at 7:15 we were called out to some hot spots, so some smoke on the moors following the fire that happened on Monday. Several hot spots, smoking embers on the moor, and we've had 2 crews here this morning. You don't quite put it out straight away, so it's a very resource intensive incident at moorland fires.
There have been half a dozen fires on the moor so far this year. This one appears to have damaged around 2 square kilometres, but what caused it is still being investigated. It's taken us about 20 minutes to walk here, and we must have climbed around 100 metres from the nearest road. That's the problem the fire service are having. They can only reach these areas using small 4x4 vehicles that have a limited amount of water on board. But they've got to get this fire out, because if it becomes deep-seated in the peat underneath, you could have a fire burning for months. Meanwhile, the lush vegetation that was here just this weekend is now crumbling to dust. The breeze is the enemy today, teasing life into the fire's destruction of habitat and wildlife. Despite campaigns, prominent notices and the threat of thousands of pounds of fines, 2023 has brought an unwelcome record.
It seems as though each year we seem to have an increasing number of fires on the moorland, which is an absolute shame because this is a fantastic location to come out and relax in. And I'm sure there'll be lots of people that are coming out to the moors this weekend with the weather forecast being so good. But it might not be intentional carelessness. Simple things like putting your cigarette down and stubbing it out on, we've got a stone road by the side of us and people think that's safe, and it's not. You know, people throwing a bottle away and thinking, well, that's not going to catch fire, but it will. Even leaving tin foil that can act as a magnifying glass, that can cause fires. So our tips would be always walk in and walk out and never leave anything.
The prospect of previous summer's Dante-esque landscapes looms large in the memory. This is a rugged but simultaneously fragile landscape. And it's a long way from being completely dry, but even so, the fire has extensively damaged somewhere we all share and enjoy. Tom Ingle, BBC Look North, Marsden Moor.
Let's discuss this further with Paul. We've just heard that there's been more fires on Marsden this year than any other year, but we have reported lots on this, haven't we, in the last few years?
We have in the last few years, and it's definitely climate related. You think back to the start of the pandemic in 2020, we had a number of fires that was directly down to the fact that spring and early summer was very dry. But I think the most vivid pictures came last summer, and of course we had record-breaking temperatures. We had a prolonged drought. It led to the first hosepipe ban since 1995. But if you think about how dry it was and the fact that we broke 40 degrees for the first time, those are the ingredients that lead to these wildfires. I think this spring is something of a surprise because spring was wet. April was wetter than average, but when I've had a closer look at the rainfall figures, and actually this part of West Yorkshire around Marsden has been a lot drier than areas such as Leeds and down towards Sheffield. They've only had less than 50% of the average rainfall in May. So that would add to the reason why we've had so many fires, but it just remains something of a mystery as to why there's been so many, as I say, because we had such a wet spring.
And looking ahead, is it going to be a dry summer?
Well, it's certainly going to be dry in the next couple of weeks, which won't help things on Marsden Moor. For what it's worth, you know, the seasonal forecast is the average of June, July and August, and that is still trending towards a drier summer than normal and potentially, at times, quite a hot one.
Well, thank you. Next tonight, more people in our region are struggling to pay their bills and they're getting into debt. Research from a debts charity based in Bradford says low income and rising costs are to blame. Christians Against Poverty says on average a person in Yorkshire owes over £11,200 in debt, almost half of which includes essentials like rent, council tax and utilities. On average, they'll owe money to 14 different companies or organisations. And take a look at this, it'll take 10 years for people to repay those debts without any help. In a moment, we'll hear from the charity about what people can do to get out of that debt. But first, our reporter Sabia Pervez has been to a playgroup in Bradford to speak to parents.
It's snack time at this mums and toddlers group in Bradford. The weekly group is a much anticipated get-together for those who attend. The cost of living crisis has hit this area hard, and although energy bills are starting to dip, some are still behind on payments.
We are helping people on a daily basis who are falling into debt, which could be like rent arrears, council tax, energy bills. People who have never been in debt before are now in debt, and we're having to sit down and sort of go through plans with them on how to help them.
With rising expenses, some people are forced to make a choice on where their money is spent. Faye is in debt. It's not a huge amount, but enough for her to have to change the way she lives.
I pay so much every month because I have other priorities, which is putting food on the table, seeing to my daughter's health needs, and that's where it is at the moment. I were quoted at one point for both gas and electric a month, around £86, and I couldn't afford that with everything else, with council tax, with water, TV licence, plus all the extras, and then you've got food to put on the table. £86 a month is just too much.
Faye is determined to provide for her daughter and manage her finances, even if it means having to sacrifice her own needs.
I eat less. Make sure my little girl, she's got what she needs. Pay what bills I can when I can. Get her the extras when I can. I'm eating less.
Although energy costs and inflation rates have dipped slightly, for so many people there's still very little respite as they continue to struggle to pay their bills and put food on their tables. Sabia Pervez, BBC Look North, Bradford.
Well, Rachel Gregory from Christians Against Poverty joins us live now. We just heard from Mum there saying that she eats less so that she can pay her debts and make sure her little girl is fed. How much are people really struggling in our region at the moment?
I know, that's an incredibly common story that we're hearing every single day at Christians Against Poverty. Our recent research found that in Yorkshire alone, there's 1.2 million people skipping meals because of the costs they're facing and simply can't afford to keep food on the table. And it's just a frightening reality when we realise the scale of poverty that's happening across our county.
Christians Against Poverty say it takes 10 years for someone to get out of debt, but if they owe to 14 different firms or companies, That can seem so overwhelming, can't it, to see the light that they ever will be out of debt?
Yeah, hugely overwhelming. And we know that for many people, debt comes hand in hand with mental health because it just seems so hopeless, the situations they're facing. And really our message for people is that it isn't. You know, don't struggle alone, reach out for help and advice. 10 years is what we would estimate it would take to repay without other options. And there are other solutions out there that we can help people with.
So give us those solutions. What sort of things can help people get out of debt?
So we'd be looking at how people can increase their income. There's £19 billion of benefits going unclaimed across the UK, so looking at whether people can get some extra help to increase their income. We'll also be working with people to look at their household budget and what they can cut back. And then ultimately we would help set up payment plans and deal with those 14 different creditors for people to help make that manageable. And if that's not going to be possible to repay, there are things like insolvency solutions that we can work towards to help people find a way forward.
If someone's watching and they can totally relate to what we're discussing, what would you say to them tonight?
I just really urge people to not suffer in silence. They can give us a call at Christians Against Poverty or have a look at the Money Helper website where there's lots of free and professional advice that's backed by government that can offer people hope and a way forward. And just know that they're not alone. You know, the figures that we're talking about today, there's hundreds of thousands of people across Yorkshire facing what they are. We know it's tough affording the rent and the council tax, and we do need urgent action to make sure poverty is tackled and people have the income that they need to live. But that doesn't mean that we can't help people cope a little bit better in the here and now.
You might have someone watching saying, hang on a moment, my wage hasn't gone up, but everything else has. How can I possibly get out of debt if my outgoings are more than my income?
Yeah, and I think we are really realistic in that situation. We've actually been seeing an increase in what we call unsustainable budgets, which is where even after debt advice, there isn't enough income to pay for the basics that people need. And we know lots of people are cutting back. A client we spoke to recently, a lady who was 76, worked until she was 75 and just cutting things to the bone, got rid of her car, couldn't have coffee with friends, no broadband, no mobile phone. You know, that's the reality that is being faced. But it's so much better when you know that you've got as much advice and support as you can and that you're not facing that alone.
And that help is out there. Thank you so much, Rachel.
Thank you.
You're watching Wednesday's Look North, still to come on tonight's programme. The Rotherham pensioner who ran 75 marathons in 75 days turns his hand to writing. A new generation of nurses, midwives and other healthcare students across our region are benefiting from improved facilities and advances in technology to help them train for the real world. A new high-tech training mannequin is helping train midwives at the University of Bradford, while a new state-of-the-art simulation ward has just been launched at Sheffield Hallam University. Our health correspondent Jamie Coulson has more details.
Is everything all right with my baby?
At the University of Bradford, student midwives can now simulate different childbirth scenarios using a realistic mannequin called Lucina. She's able to speak, breathe, her belly hardens with contractions, and in this case replicate a medical emergency where the baby's shoulders have become stuck.
I'm very tired.
Augmented reality headsets also allow students to see what's going on inside the body while dealing with what's happening in the room.
Feels the same. You know, the mother's sort of been screaming, shouting out. It is very, very much like a real birth.
The actual feel of Lucinda feels really real as well, and the fact that she breathes and she has a pulse and her eyes move and she talks, yeah, it's really good.
If there's an emergency, they can see what is physically happening inside, so it's taking that applied knowledge that they've learned in the classroom, taking the experiences that they're having in practice and bringing it together.
When are the doctors coming?
They should be coming around soon.
At Sheffield Hallam University, a new state-of-the-art 12-bed simulation ward has just been opened, allowing students to build their skills and confidence. Third-year nursing, physiotherapy and occupational therapy students are among the first to use it.
There's different patients, different things are going on, and then there's other patients that you're not looking after that you have to keep an eye on as well. So I think it was realistic.
Nurse!
It's so helpful to have places that you can safely rehearse, safely experiment with your communication style, with some of the skills that you're just learning, working with other colleagues from different disciplines.
Simulated training plays a vital role in preparing healthcare students for the future, with improved technology and facilities helping to bridge the gap between the classroom and the real world. Jamie Coulson, BBC Look North.
Let's take a look at some other stories coming into the newsroom today. Family court transcripts in the case of a baby who was later murdered by his parents show Derbyshire County Council was overruled on a plan to return the baby to his parents. 10-month-old Finlay Bowden died on Christmas Day in 2020 at his home in Chesterfield. He had 130 injuries. The council had recommended a transition period of 4 months because of concerns about Shannon Marsden and Stephen Bowden's drug use and their parenting abilities. But the baby was handed back within 8 weeks because the Independent Children and Families Court Advisory Service said the couple had made sustained and positive changes. The pair are due to be sentenced on Friday. The Labour MP for the region says he thinks there's huge concern about the way the case was handled.
So I think it's absolutely legitimate to question, in a case of this seriousness, with the previous offending of Finlay's father, with the serious concerns being raised by social services, whether the magistrate and that process was robust enough to ensure that the child's needs were protected, and clearly we know tragically that they weren't.
New research suggests that 70% of Yorkshire and the Humber's rivers and lakes contain one or more toxic chemical combinations that damage wildlife. The Environment Agency tested 94 different lakes and rivers in our region. Rivers where more than 3 toxic chemical combinations were identified include the Derwent, Ouse, Ayr and Wharfe. A group of nature charities is now urging the government to take a much more ambitious approach in regulating harmful chemicals. Now, do you remember Ray Matthews? He's the man from Rotherham that decided the best way to celebrate turning 75 was to run 75 marathons in 75 days. Well, Ray raised £35,000 for charity doing that, and he's just written a memoir called Path to Success, sharing his childhood memories of Sheffield and his many feats of endurance. Ray, it is so lovely to see you. First of all, how is that running going?
Not so good at the minute. I think the big issue is that I've got that much on that I probably need a bit more time to spend on me, I think. We've had quite a lengthy time spent on organising different events and of course, the new book that's coming out.
So, of course, you did the 75 marathons in 75 days, which, by the way, having done one marathon, I completely take my hat off to you. I have no idea how you did that, Ray, but you certainly haven't rested, have you, since?
No.
Tell me about that fantastic work that you've been doing with children.
I've been quite a lot in schools, getting around all the schools in Rotherham, and the idea is to try and get the children motivated enough to keep themselves fit, healthy, and encourage the parents when they get home from school to take them out rather than sat there on their laptops and the phones.
And that's something that you had from a young age, wasn't it? That's all in the book. Tell us about that, your inspiration.
Well, the inspiration from the book is I'm trying to pass on the fortunate time I had when I was a little lad. My background is boxing. When I decided at 10-year-old or just before 10 that I wanted to become a boxer because I had bright ginger hair and I didn't like that at all. So anybody called me Ginger and it were...
Better watch out.
Watch out. But I met 2 amazing people that not only taught me how to box, but they taught me about me. They taught me how to get into myself, how to motivate, how to be able to make instant decisions. And that has continued on right the way through my life.
And that's why you're inspiring lots of children as well. Ray, what was hardest, running 75 marathons or writing a book?
Writing a book, definitely.
Really?
That took 18 months to write that one. And of course, COVID was the instigation of, I suppose, many people sitting down writing memoirs or writing books. And whilst it did take 18 months, I think the first 2 were definitely learning curves. And I'm so proud of this one. This has got a lot going for it.
Well, The Path to Success. I only wish I'd read it before my marathon. Thank you so much, Ray. I can't wait to get stuck into it and I can't wait to see what you get up to next.
That's great. Thank you.
A North Yorkshire parrot sanctuary says it's been inundated with birds as more and more are being handed in after the lockdown. The sanctuary at Moordyke Farm in Thirsk also needs to raise more funds than ever to feed the expanding flock. Carla Fowler has been to find out more.
Imagine an entire lifetime locked down. That's what these rescue parrots have all survived, caged and alone as pets. This sanctuary in Thirsk has recently been inundated with unwanted and neglected parrots.
Yeah, they need to be with their own kind and they need space to fly and to be free and make their choices. We're already full. There's so much need. And when we look at a lot of the leg rings on the parrots, it tells us how old they are. And although we're getting a wide range of age, there's an awful lot coming from lockdown eras. So I do think that perhaps the same problem with parrots has happened with the dogs and cats, that people got them in lockdown and realised they're a lot of hard work.
Trisha's been caring for birds at Moordyke Farm since 2017. Now her aviary has more than 100 parrots. It's a registered charity. She has a waiting list but tries not to turn any bird away. Intelligent, social animals. To thrive, they need to live in a flock.
This is Polly, and Polly's 25 years old. Now, they're only supposed to live to about 15, 20 years old, this breed of parrot. Hello, sweetie. But Polly lived in a cage all her life up until a few weeks ago when her owner died. And this is the first time here at Sanctuary that Polly's had the chance to live outside of a cage.
You like my earrings?
But costs have rocketed to over £1,000 a month just to feed the flock. So at today's open day, visitors can donate or sponsor a bird. It's also about educating the public.
Parrots aren't pets. They're possibly more intelligent than the great apes. And you're keeping a wild animal in your living room in a cage because you want it. It's not what's right for the parrot.
Until we found the event, we didn't realise there was a need for Parrot Sanctuary, quite frankly, so it's been really good.
It's beautiful, isn't it? Nicely done and everything.
I'm absolutely fascinated. Yeah, I think I'm afraid I'm a great lover of parrots.
These parrots have found a forever home at last, with space to spread their wings. Carla Fowler, BBC Look North, Thirsk.
Well, they're so tame as well, aren't they? Now, many 9-year-old boys are cycling or riding scooters, but not Alfie from Bradford. He is setting a new land speed record on his specially adapted motorbike. He started riding aged 5. He spent 2 years honing his skills before starting drag racing aged 8. Today, Alfie set a brand new record of more than 54 miles per hour at Elvington Airfield near York on his 80cc machine. Olivia Richwald reports.
This is 9-year-old Alfie, who today achieved a world land speed record. Alfie hit 54.4 miles an hour at Elvington Airfield on his specially adapted 80cc bike.
He started on his 8th birthday, his first run at Elvington, to progress to what he has done now. Yeah, it's an achievement, and as parents, we're just so proud of him.
Alfie's dad works as a fireman and paramedic at speed events like this one in York today. His son got into motorsport from standing on the sidelines watching.
Just fun. It gives us something to do.
You're only 9 now. When did you start riding your bike?
I first started, it wasn't on this, it were on a little mini motor that were just an electric one. And we levelled up and just carried on levelling up until we got to this.
I'm very proud of him because he's very focused. He goes out and he does the best he can every time he goes out. He comes back very, very energetic because he's just done his run and achieved his own personal best. So as a parent, really proud.
Alfie is part of a group of juniors setting new records. As they get older, they're allowed to use more powerful engines. And little Alfie has big ambitions.
Get really fast and do stuff like that and become an engineer and build crazy stuff.
I am a bit scared because he looks up to a lot of the bigger riders and he wants to do wheelies and he wants to go in the 200 mile an hour club, but he also, with him wanting to be an engineer, it's nice to know that he wants to build them and potentially do other records that he's made himself.
Oh, 54, but yes!
Keeps them occupied, and it's something to achieve more because we put different classes in so they can move up each year, so they don't get bored. They all want to go as fast as they can, as sooner than they should really, but it is fast and you forget sometimes, but yeah, they're pretty safe. There's lots of things in place for them and they wear all the right safety gear.
And if Alfie needs inspiration for his future, here's engineer Michael Wallhead from Wakefield. His efforts were not rubbish as he laid waste to the old world record, hitting more than 52 miles an hour in his hand-built wheelie bin bike, the Duke of Hazardous Waste. Olivia Richwald, BBC Look North, York.
Oh my goodness, that's terrifying watching Alfie do that. Wheelie bin is far more my mode of transport, I think.
That looks really good fun. You could have had that for your birthday present. Happy birthday, Amy.
What a wheelie bin, thanks so much.
You were going to tell us how many years? Is that rude to ask?
21 again,
21
as always.
21 again, right.
As a birthday treat, can we have a look at your socks?
Well, it's only well, I came in my shorts, I have to say. Thank you for outing me. There you go. Not a very good
That's
look, is
made
it?
my day, they're ridiculous.
Right, look at this. I wish I'd been here today. This was at Flamborough Head, absolutely glorious. We're having a bit of a journey along the coast. We did Robin Hood's Bay yesterday. I do apologise, it's a second view of Robin Hood's Bay if we have a look at the next picture, but it was taken from Ravenscar. The Gauls is looking beautiful at this time of the year. There's Robin Hood Bay there. I'm sure all these spots this weekend will be packed because the forecast is looking great. The addresses are on your screen if you're wanting to send your pictures in on Twitter, Instagram and on the Weather Watcher website, and we'll try and put some of them on the TV on Look North tomorrow night. Now tomorrow we're not going to have the clear blue skies we've had today. There will be more cloud coming across Yorkshire, so it's cloudy at times with some sunny spells, but it does look as though it's going to stay dry, and it's the same old story. High pressure is going to be sat across us and it's going to be here for the rest of May, and the indications I've seen in the last hour, the latest charts and data that's coming, it looks like it's going to be there during the first week of June as well, so a prolonged spell of settled weather is upon us. Now, I've been looking at this cloud across Ireland, Northumberland. It's been sinking southwards in the last hour, and this is going to get caught up with the northerly flow. Just watch the forecast sequence. It spills down northwards and then pushes westwards. So all in all, it will turn fairly cloudy tonight, but apart from the odd spot of drizzle over the hills, it is dry, and we will see temperatures around 9 or 10, so a mild night to come. Tomorrow's high water times then in Filey 8:34 and again at 9:20. So quite a lot of cloud around first thing in the morning. You can see there will be some gaps here and there, so the sunshine will break through the cloud at times, but more cloud than we've had today. The odd light shower can't be ruled out, but it looks as though it's going to be dry. We've had 23 today in Tadcaster, a little bit cooler, 19 or 20 the high, and that's the forecast.
You'll be pleased to hear I've dusted off the paddleboard.
Yes.
So I no longer have to talk about marathon running.
That's a great relief to our audience.
I'll bore you with waterways instead.
Right.
That's it from us. I hope you have a lovely evening in this glorious weather. Mark Ansell's here with your late news. Bye-bye.